Alright, here I'm working with this file, scenario, video companion file. And if you open up this file, it's looking at a company's future projections, right, for their revenues and cost, and trying to figure out eventually their earnings before taxes. So these formulas up here are based on these blue cells down here. If I put in a projection of 110,000 first year sales, it repeats up at the top and then gives it a 10% increase across to the right. Again, these are just some simple formulas. So what happens in the future, though, you never get it correctly if you're doing, guesstimations. A lot of times you have a best case scenario, a worst case scenario, a middle kind of scenario. So if I change my numbers down here in the blue, if I type in 120,000 down here for first unit sales, enter basically all these values up above, recalculate if they're dependent on this cell. So I get some new earnings before taxes, better. So what happens in companies is, things happen. Like right now, the world seems to be falling apart. So a lot of companies are basically looking at their projections and changing them around for the best case, worst case, middle kind of scenario. So here I'm just going to work with these three cells here. The first year sales, the selling price, and the unit manufacturing cost. I'm going to put them in a different color just for the fun of it. But I want different scenarios for these. And then have them affect, when I show the scenarios, have them affect and see the different earnings before taxes when I look at the three different scenarios. So basically having three different values in these cells. So it's fairly easy to do. I'm just going under data. I highlighted the three cells first, these cells in yellow. Those are the ones I want to affect. So data, what if analysis, scenario manager. So there are no scenarios here. So what I want to do is I'm going to add a scenario. And the first thing I'm going to do is these three values here, I'm going to call it the middle ground. Those are my middle projections. So you can call these scenarios anything you want, but I'll call this one middle. If I change the cells, again the ones I have highlighted, C18 to C20, hit OK. And then I want to leave these three values as my middle scenario. And then we're just going to add another scenario. I'm going to add the worst case scenario. If things go bad, what can happen? So the name of the scenario, this is going to be called worst case. Hit OK, and then you have to come up with what are my worst case values. Like say maybe I only sell 90,000 units sold. The price of it, I'd have to lower my prices if things get really bad, 3.25. And then the cost may go up. The really bad scenario, 1 and like say 3/4 or $1.75. And this is my worst case scenario. And then it's going to do the best case scenario. Maybe things will turn around and get better. So I'm going to add another scenario. This is called my best case. And then the best case, like say my units sold 120,000. I can raise my prices in $3.75, and my costs go down to 125. The hard part is trying to make a rationale for these number changes for what do you think is going to happen in the future, but doing the Excel part is fairly straightforward. I could add another scenario, but these are all the three scenarios I want, so I just hit OK, and there I see my three scenarios. Right? You could always add another one here too, but if I want to see the best case scenario, I double click on best, and you see here my three best numbers, right? The higher sales, higher sale price, lower cost, and here's my larger earnings before taxes. If I double click on the worst case, these three numbers change, and again here's my earnings are really low in this one. So when you're giving presentations about what can happen in the future, instead of opening up three separate files you saved as, you just have these three different scenarios built inside the one file. Very useful feature for doing projections. Again, every company's got to do their profit projections. Give it a try.